Welcome back, everybody, to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing? So awesome to see you all you new people, all the people that came in yesterday. Very cool. And thank you to Janine. Hi, Janine. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Yesterday was kind of neat. We compiled this world reading from these mystery cards that I had purchased a little over a year ago. And we unraveled it yesterday and we came up with some really cool things. And it just kind of like sets the tone for what we're doing here in the channel and the time, what's going on in the time that we're dealing with, right? And so today what we're going to look at is breaking the brainwash. And what I mean by that is not only people breaking out of the brainwashing that is taking place, but it's also this thing of like checking in with what we need to know, those that have broken through. For me, awakening is part of a journey. There's levels to it. There's many different awakenings. This has been such a huge awakening for people. And really what it has amounted to is breaking down the brainwashing that we've all been under. And it's been profound. The level of foolery that these bad actors, these deep staters, the intelligence community, the elitists have been up to, especially for the last 60, 70 years, last 20 years, last 5 years. Like there's little points along the way where we see things ramping up to what we're living in today. Now, if it wasn't for the people that are sitting at home and everybody else, like all of us that are taking part right now that hadn't awoken, we wouldn't be here right now as well. So it's really positive, right? Like, and what we need is more encouragement. What do we need to know? What's going to help us? Right? This is part of our journey. It's part of the spiritual awakening of humanity. Now, the social engineering projects that are very prevalent throughout the 20th century, leading up into the 21st century, are shrouded in mystery. There's a lot of conjecture. People question a lot. There's a lot of different viewpoints. There's a lot of disinformation out there. And there's also been a lot of people from the alternative areas that have come to certain bits of information that are truth. And we're coming to find out more and more and more every day. Right? And this is what's been happening. It's been coming to the surface, right? Everything with the internet has been developed and designed around military research, social engineering, looking at, monitoring people, steering their worldview, steering the narrative, this kind of thing, right? And so, us on the other side of that are waking up, it's almost like, or have been awoken for a while, and especially in the last 5 years, it's, in a way, what's been happening is like a reprogramming. Right? It's like a debriefing, actually. Many of us have actually awoken to the true nature of this agenda, who the true enemies are, let's say. That kind of thing, right? And so in that scenario, there is an unraveling and there needs to be a restructuring. Now, as this other part of the agenda, this grand theater, this grand enactment of their dark side ritual, is also part of a reprogramming also that we've been pushing back against, let's say, and fighting against, because some of that worldview that they're trying to project onto people is demeaning to the human spirit, let's say. And that's kind of really what it's about. We also need to be prepared for the next stages. This is really important, right? And that's what I thought we would kind of look into this, like the brainwashing effect, what's happening. It's part of the awakening. As people's brainwashing wears off, the awakening comes into play. And like, I know we can get into this thing where this has been going on for centuries and centuries. It's taken centuries and centuries and centuries to get to this point. But yet, what's really prevalent is, I guess, especially for those of us that have been around long enough, it's been going on our whole lives, right? They've stepped it up in certain eras, right? But a big thing was the pre-Trump era, where the Obama administration rescinded 2 propaganda laws that basically prohibited propaganda being used against the people. And when those laws were rescinded, one in 2012 and one in 2017, that's when the floodgates started to open up. And what we've come to realize, that it was against political opponents and the people, the very people that had voted these people in a so-called democratic state and all this. And then during the pandemic, essentially, what was admitted by all of the major governments, and especially in the Five Eyes, the Western nations, and in Europe as well, basically admitting of directing their psychological operations against their own people to coerce and to monitor and to censor, but basically admitting that their war machine was turned in on us, right? And so if people wonder, like, how the hell do they get away with all of this? Well, that's part of it. They've been priming us and preparing us for decades. For decades, we've raised children. And those children have brought children into the world. And it's sort of the nature of perception, but yet the human ability to kind of bust through falsity is quite great. This is part of our built-in operating system, especially when it is spiritualized. And that's kind of what we're getting at. This is a spiritual battle. And so what we're going to look into, though, I like to start the readings. I kind of like to go broad and then kind of narrow in to see what else, to see if there's anything specific that we need to look at. A little bit of guidance, get connected with source, get connected with higher self. And what do we need to know about this unraveling of the brainwashing, and more around the awakening? This is something I'm going to keep going on about, the awakening process and everything, right? And so, but it's also sort of like, what do we need to know, especially around those that are, some of us have family members that are kind of, the grip of the brainwash is leaving them, right? I also like to call it the mind germ, the mind virus that people are under, right? Some people are getting cured of it. Some people are dropping it. How do we better facilitate those that have been awoken a little bit ahead of time? How do we better facilitate? Also, how do we, as though awoken ones, let's say, or those that are awakening, and surrounded by people that are totally brainwashed, that are woke, how else do we want to say it, just kind of taken over by the mind virus, let's say, and how do we navigate that better? What do we need to know about it for ourselves, right? And also, what's going to help facilitate our own awakening better, especially leading up into the next couple months, because they are the volume, like, they could turn it up a bit more, but that's not important. This is also about a continuation beyond what these bad actors, these deep staters, dark siders, what they're up to. We have to think beyond them. We right into the next stage. Okay, so first, a little guidance. What do we need to know around this? Breaking the brainwash. So I like to mix up the cards like that because I like to read the cards reversed. And that for me is a way of resetting the cards. When I have a client in front of me, I get them to mix in the cards. Yeah, here we are. So past, present, future. right? And we talked about this, the brain, busting the brainwash. This is a huge thing. And it does refer to how a lot of this has been sort of perpetuated against women in some ways, or the emotional hook comes from the feminine side in us. It's not necessarily just women, because men, I mean, there are men watching this as well, but that desire part of us, or that part of us that can pay attention to the intuition and really register what is right, that connection, that's, I think, a part of our feminine energies. That's what they're hitting. That's what they've always hit. They've preyed upon our base emotional needs, right? And like hit that part of us, right? And so kind of restoring that is kind of a key. Let's say Queen of Cups reversed is, oh man, there's a lot of issues that come with that. This could also be like addictions is one part of it, but the pharmaceutical overlay that we've been clouded over with, this is another thing, right? Many of us kind of have this. We've been raised with this perception that, right? But I mean, many of us have had to go into other means, like naturopathic means, but to mix, to balance. Yeah, but it's the emotional center. And more to the point of the heart, right? So yeah, attack our soul essence, attack the divine source within us all. However people see that or believe it, right? It doesn't really matter. These guys have kind of, they've gotten to sort of understand, like, and I'm talking about these social engineers, these people that throw this stuff at us, these bad actors, deep staters, dark siders. They have studied this stuff for a very long time, especially the psychology of the human mind, the human condition. And it's almost like they've been able to like play it like a guitar or like keyboard. And so this is kind of what they've been doing, but yeah, an empowered human being is amazing, and how they offset this, right? And so part of it is like this demoralizing factor, keeping us down on our base level, keeping us sick, you know, kind of these kind of things, right? And so that's kind of what we're dealing with. We're seeing this in our world, right? This is what's waking people up. This is what's waking the most normified people, okay? It's the wake-up call all over the world, like all over where they're seeing, especially in the Western world, like, I mean, where the attack, but the attack is on all of us, all humans everywhere. But the people are starting to see it, right? And that's what will help them revitalize, like the Judgment card coming into a new form. But from the past, right? It's like this thing they've been preying upon, like especially in North America and the Western world, like in the UK and Australia and stuff, and like in Europe, right? Where we've had it good for so long. They've sort of preyed upon the idea of well-being and the happy home, and how this card, the 10 of Cups here, talks about, right? Even like when we know this, they've attacked the family structure and the core of how we connect, right? But they've kept this secret. They've kept like this thing, like it's a massive cover up. And this is what we understand. We're starting to see this, right? There's no illusion to this anymore. Whereas before, like even a couple of years ago, people really questioned this. You couldn't talk about this stuff more openly, but yet you can now a bit more, right? This is in fact what needs to be done. It needs to be exposed. The High Priestess, interesting card, very interesting card, especially with the right side up. There's a deep kind of spiritual truth behind it. And don't act as your enemy. Don't do what your enemy has done to you. Don't become your enemy. There's an old saying: be wary of the monsters you hunt and fight. Right? That's kind of what this is talking about. We can see beyond this. We can see a higher spiritual truth. And I mean, for me, like in the sense of like moving into a new astrological age, like a new world age, is definitely a part of that. That's part of like a grand progression, right? But anyway, It's kind of part of this. Many people needed to be activated in order to sort of move forward, and that's kind of what we're seeing, right? And to sort of see past the illusion with the true mind, which is resonates in the heart like the cup. Okay, so in the future, right? I mean, this card like if we go back in some of the other readings, right? The Five of Swords has a lot to do with what we talked about, like the communication in the mind, but the taking back of the social media and the realizing the nature of what the internet, some of the like not so positive things of the internet and the social media, what they've sort of devised it for. There has to be a reckoning. I mean, that is their Trojan horse of creating a system of total control. What else can I say it, right? Like, and we're sort of on the brink of it in the sense that they keep trying to push this, right? But awareness, bringing things to the light. So even from the past, what's happened is their agenda, this thing has come out and has come out and has come out and has helped people sort of understand what this is a little bit more and more and more. And it has taken quite a period of time to kind of get there, right? And so, the last 2 years. So the last 2 years, we've seen so much come out. Much more has come out in the last 2 years than I think ever. Like a lot of their ploys and their things that they've implemented have come to the surface, right? And so if you're a person going out there and trying to share information with people, there is proof to a lot of this stuff now. There's papers, there's like documents, because we've broken through a little bit. There is a breakthrough. So there is information there. Some things maybe not so, right? But that's the thing, is equip yourself with information, especially with people that are freshly woken up or people that won't listen, like in your family or stuff, people that are hard to walk away from. Work, that's another thing. People have to kind of face this stuff at work. So much has sort of been shown to us, right? And you got to help people wake up to the notion that like right now, like it's like they've been trying to spark a revolution, and what they're doing is they're going after the younger generations. They've been going after the kids to implement their indoctrination and step it up, and they've got them hooked on social media, right? And that's and bringing it to their attention that a lot of their worldview doesn't come from their own thoughts, and that they should question this stuff. Some of these ideas, like especially around climate, it's absolutely crazy. This has been going on for my whole life, especially with the climate. Nothing what they've said has come true. And there's so much alternative evidence out there that disproves everything what they're saying. And in fact, if they're projecting it out onto the public, then chances are they're doing it, or they're covering up for something that they are doing. The other thing too, it's like the pharmaceutical medical industry has just got a grip on everybody, even those that are awakened. So it's like getting out of this sort of mentality where you have to just 100% rely on the system, because that's what they want. That's what they wanted the whole time. Just getting back into like more of a healthier frame of mind, a healthier frame of body, helping people see, like, especially people that are pulling themselves out of that kind of mentality, or pulling themselves out of like the dark side into the light. Seeing like part of it is seeing that there's a purpose for it, and partly it is to free us. Partly it is you're given the experience to help others, to help another person to come out, right? That's part of this, right? It's like getting more into like a selfless frame of mind instead of like busting this selfish patterning, right? That's a big kind of part of it, right? So it's like, another kind of cueing into like this, our own, I guess, emotional, mental, spiritual content, like what's going on inside and how it's being sort of projected out, what we're doing, because this applies to every sort of area of life. That's why I like the tarot. This is exactly like why I like the tarot, because it helps unravel what is in the subconscious. It helps us see what's going on there. All right. Let's see what else we can glean from that. What else do we need to know about breaking the brainwash for ourselves and for other people? What do we need to be concerned with? It's going to help us on our path with this, especially if we're surrounded by people that aren't, because I know that we can't. I mean, let's face it, there's nowhere else. It's becoming fewer and fewer places to hide. In fact, we can't hide anymore. Have to get out. Dark and light. Freeing the self. That's definitely what the devil card sometimes represents, is like freeing ourselves from anything that has been imposed on us, or even self-imposed, right? A lot of it, that's how the devil tricks us, get us to do it to ourselves, that kind of thing. But yet, so you got to realize, right, especially from a more of an enlightenment point of view, or from the perspective where the tarot cards comes from, is like breaking apart like the false belief systems that don't permit us to fully experience the fullness of the human form. And so it's in the belief system a lot of the time. So superstition is a big one. This is what's caught people. It's caught people for millennia. And we have had an opportunity to break out of it. But people are caught by so many different beliefs. And so that's one thing, is realizing like that's also how they're hooking us, is through our belief system. And they've been throwing a whole bunch of stuff at us over many decades. And I've witnessed this. This is kind of what we're doing. We've been going through little psyops that they've been throwing at us. Rather than getting caught up in the dark side, it's like seeing the hope as well. It's more important, like, what are we moving towards? Like the positive aspects of what we are dealing with today. That's what we need to sort of keep the mind on, right? It's like we're constantly standing on this gate of moving forward as a species, as like a collective consciousness, right? But yet we're constantly held back, and this is what they want. Astrology is such an amazing tool for unlocking and helping a person understand self and their life purpose. And that's something that can help. This is kind of what I've been leading to, is that tarot is there to help unravel this stuff as well. It's almost like the spiritual aspects of the spiritual life is there to help offset. And see, we know this is why they're attacking anything of a spiritual nature. Some of this stuff, like this, is so deep-seated, it needs to be unraveled in the human consciousness, right? And so this is what we're actually witnessing, is this unraveling effect. Purification, actually going through like a purification process, purifying the mind, body, and spirit. That's what's needed with some people. Some people need to explore what's been going on in their minds, and they need to go through that. They need that journey, right? But it's like stripping away and getting to like the purity of the human form, right? Which is what the star represents. Star is always a really good thing, right? Hope is nothing without the will to move towards it, the will to act as well. So we have to have these things that we can move towards, that inspire us, that aren't just like empty, like wishing wells, right? And that's what people need, right? They need to see real, tangible stuff that's going to help them. A lot of it's of the mind. That's the other thing, mind, right? And it really, that's like the access way to the spirit in a sense, right? Especially from the material world, from the physical body, right? So they're really getting people's like etheric energy, and that the whole part of the structure and the system is sort of set up around that. But there's also this thing of being able to have good boundaries, right? The Emperor is the boundaries card, but like being able to have boundaries in a more of a spiritualized way, not in an everyday way. It's like teaching people or showing people how to drop their masks and put on the true form, and getting into a new structure of being and a new way of life, right? But yet yeah, it requires like sort of like an awareness around what is happening with all of this, right? And it really has a lot to do with like a dependence on the system, a dependence on the structure. And so when people start to move away from it in little bits, but not deny it, they start to see like, wait a second, this dependency thing is not the reality part. And the good parts of the system, that's what we need to keep with. And they want us to volunteer in our systematic destruction. So they want us to take everything that's good and bad, everything, and just shove it down the toilet, baby with the bathwater. And that's what we're trying to prevent from doing. And so witness people doing this, call them on, especially people that are awakening or receptive, people you love, right? That's that kind of thing. Yeah, mental activity, physical activity helps. So not only the meditation, but keeping the mind sharp. This is another thing. Having the practice of engaging the mental and the physical in the sense of like restoring that energy, right? So what do we do when we replace the internet? That's kind of how we have to look at it, I guess, right? And it's just like allowing ourselves to go in the areas that we need to go in. That's a big part of it, right? So it's like people need not fear what they're throwing at us. That's a big part of it. We're way more powerful than they can conceive of. They don't want us to know this. That we're able to offset a lot of this is just like so frail, right? And like we need to kind of be in our groups, like we need to go and engage our community, not sort of push it away, right? We have to sort of embrace these things. We have to see through the negative, the dark cloud that's been placed over many, 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 many things. Pinpoint directly what are these things in our world that are psyops. Directly how they're operating in the physical world, in your world, mentally and physically. Pinpoint them, show them to people, right? That's kind of what, especially the people that are asking, like, what's going on here? And this is what it is. It's awareness sort of starts to break the spell. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope that was clear. I hope you got something out of it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, share, like, leave a comment. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening or a wonderful morning. And I hope to see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.